Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, the marvelous Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour over 3 years ago, at the beginning of the shelter-in-place orders. And we've just been having so much fun getting together every Wednesday that we've been coming back all the time and having our favorite writers come and read for us, sometimes even more than once. So we're having a lot of fun here. We're having so much fun, SIFWA got in on the action. We have a SIFWA Givers Fund grant to help us keep the rooms open and everything streaming. So thank you, SIFWA. We really appreciate it. We have a great turnout tonight. Welcome back to those of you returning, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. As you know, we have two wonderful writers joining us this evening. Tonight we have Guan Un and John Wiswell. Now, if you can, we'd like you to please consider learning about or donating to, maybe both, tonight's featured nonprofits, GiveWell and the SPLC. Guan Un is reading for GiveWell. GiveWell spends over 50,000 hours a year researching charities. Donors can select individual charities from a list or donate to funds that give grants to the ones GiveWell finds most effective. GiveWell collects no fees, so donations go completely to the charities, supporting GiveWell's operations only when the donor requests it. You can learn more at givewell.org. John Wiswell is reading for Southern Poverty Law Center. The SPLC is dedicated to fighting hate and bigotry and to seeking justice for the most vulnerable members of our society. The society in this case being the US, sorry, international viewers, but I'm sure we're all working together on the same goals here, really. Using litigation, education, and other forms of advocacy, the SPLC works toward the day when the ideals of equal justice and equal opportunity will be a reality. You can learn more at splcenter.org. We'd also like you to think about the WGA strike that just ended, because although we're very happy that that concluded well, the SAG-AFTRA strike is still continuing. SAG-AFTRA joined the strike, and that's the actors joining the writers partway through the WGA strike, and that was a big help for the writers. The Entertainment Community Fund was originally known as the Actors Fund, and it provides a safety net for performing arts and entertainment professionals, including the WGA professionals, the writers. And it only seems right to keep mentioning that for the SAG-AFTRA members who are still striking and still could use a little help with things like rent and groceries that we all need. And that is at entertainmentcommunity.org. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to chime in on the text chat. It's great to see that it's already looking pretty lively there. If you are joining us on Facebook, thank you very much. We will not be participating in quite such lively chat with you. Try not to miss us too much. We'll catch up later, though, I promise. And our first reader tonight is Guan Un. Guan Un lives in Sydney, Australia, with his family and a dog named after a tiger. He has been published in Strange Horizons, Correo, Diabolical Plots, and more, as well as featured in Year's Best Fantasy Volume 2 and LeVar Burton Reads. He is a sentence enthusiast. I almost said science enthusiast, which is probably also true, but you know, he's a sentence enthusiast, dumpling mancer, and is probably thinking about fictional heists. Welcome, Guan. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
So I understand you brought us 3 pieces tonight.
I have 3 pieces. Don't worry, they're all shorter. They're all flash kind of sized.
Of course. That's what we thought. But we're excited to hear them all.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This first piece is called To Chase the Night with Darkness. It was originally published in a Flame Tree newsletter. So unfortunately, it's not available online. I'll work on getting it reprinted at some point. Here we go. Through the window of my office, cat calls, drunken arguments, the gossip of car horns, the usual background music for Friday night. The lights of neon from across the street advertising nothing you'd tell your mother about. "You open?" said a smoke-tinged voice. It was Rita, the torch singer herself, in a red dress that clung to her curves like a wino holds onto a bottle, like salvation and life sentence. I'd known her in what seemed like a past life, back when she wasn't something yet, and there was still some hope for me. From what I'd heard, she might make it to the next big thing, to stages outside of Ellsmouth, places where the sound of flesh on flesh was applause instead of bar fights. "How are you, Ori?" she said. "Is this a social call, Rita?" "Well, it's just, I think someone might be trying to kill me." And with that she swayed. Her clutch fell to the floor and then she fell too. I was quick enough to catch her and eased her down on my couch. There was a bullet hole in her shoulder. She was lucky the bullet had grazed her. I was practiced at bullet wounds, but it turned out to be even easier when the bullet wasn't in me. Her eyes opened. "Well, now you've got me on the couch," she asked. "I was thinking we work out who's trying to kill you." "That's what you do with a lady on the couch." We both heard the footsteps. A big shadow moved behind the door. "Friend of yours?" she said softly. "My only friend's in the holster on my back." "How about on 3 we go out the window?" I said. "In this dress?" she said. That seemed like a good argument. 3, I said, and opened the door. In the hall, a big guy in a suit fumbling inside his jacket. I made the first move and kicked out his knee. Rita gave him a punch to the face, which sent him back down the stairs behind him, and he went tumbling down. We went over his body and down the stairs. "Where'd you learn to punch like that?" I asked. "Same place I learned to sing." We emerged into the cool air, and for a moment Rita is backlit in green by the neon signs of the city. That's what I remembered after it all went down. Her face shining like a beacon of what I didn't know. We made it around the corner to the car when someone stepped out and kissed me on the forehead with a gun barrel. Ice spidered down my neck. I raised my hands slow. The gunman had a snake tattoo that wrapped around his neck up toward his ears. "He just wants the girl," he said. In the corner of my vision, Rita's eyes went wide. "Don't worry, whatever happens, I'll get you back," I said. Her eyes went wider. "Quit talking," said Snake. So Rita sang instead, a sudden, pure, piercing note that made him whip the gun around, and I slapped it away. Rita pulled the gun from my holster and pointed it at his face. "I'll find you," he whispered. I helped him go to sleep and then looked in his pockets. A business card there. Harris Industries. And there it is. R.I.P. my smarts, floating dead weight down to the ocean floor. Because Aris was born gold. If you mess with Aris, you mess with the family. And if you mess with the family, you get to be a playground for earthworms. "What'd you do?" I asked, once we were in the car with Velocity behind us. "I took something," Rita said, and her hand went to her purse. "Where are we going?" "I know a place." Melly's shop was a 2-story building in the valley. "Flowers," said the sign on the shingle. The key was still under the mat, and we were greeted by a welcoming committee of flowers of every kind, across the shelves and on the counter. I didn't know much about flowers, but I knew that every flower that was cut was just waiting to die. "Who's the gal?" Rita said. "Someone who owes me a favour," I said. The apartment at the top was small, but compared to my office, it was Versailles. Clean and homey, a bedroom off to one side, a little balcony over the shop front. You take the bed, I said, and sank back onto the couch. But Rita pulled me up with a look in her eyes. "I was just thinking that maybe you could protect me better from the bedroom." And suddenly I wasn't so sleepy. The next morning I woke and reached my hand out. Her side of the bed, warm and empty. In the living room, the morning light came through and caught on her skin like it didn't want to leave her. "So where does a gal get some breakfast?" she said, stepping onto the balcony. Fear scissored through my chest. "Rita, wait," I said. Too late. The bullet hit her and sent her spinning back onto the floor. I heard the sound of a car, Imagine the man with the snake tattoo behind the wheel. Her eyes looked like the moment between a spotlight being turned off and before it's faded to black. And with a sudden strength, she pulled my head down next to hers. Orpheus, find me, she whispered. Beside her was the purse. Inside it, a ticket that said Hades, admit one. And I knew then that I would follow her down to the cold steel of the mortuary table, down through the motives of the murder, down into the tangles and tremors of Eurydice's life in all its selfish knots, down and down until she was the only up I'd ever known. End. Thank you. Thank you. This next one is, sorry, I forgot to do warnings on that last one for a little bit of murder. This next one is a bit darker again. There is a hint, implied abduction. So yes, if that bothers you, then please step away for 8 or so minutes. And just in case there's confusion, this one takes the form of a review in a magazine. It's called Still Life, a Review, originally published in The Dread Machine. Still Life, an exhibition by Edouard Montpellier-Lin at the Metropolitan Museum of New Art until 4th of April. Reviewed by T.L. Possum. If you walked into The Still Life, the new exhibition by Montpellier-Lin, you could perhaps be forgiven for thinking that you had taken a wrong turn into Madame Tussauds. After all, the initial sight would be similar. A group of figures posed with an uncanny verisimilitude to a real person. One might think that imitation is the art form. However, after further examination, some distinctions begin to emerge. Unlike the figures of Madame Tussauds, the people depicted in Still Life are not notably famous. There was no Brad Pitt here with a multi-million-dollar smile. Instead, the subjects in Still Life are all beautiful women in the prime of their lives, their 20s and 30s. And there may be a sense of nagging familiarity, like seeing a childhood friend across the other side of the bar. And then you may realize that the subjects of this exhibition are the Lost Girls. I do not have column space to describe all the tangled history and internet folklore of the Lost Girls and how for 18 months they captured the imagination of the public by occupying the center of a Venn diagram of picturesque victims, of criminal intrigue and gruesome implication. But since this exhibition is inextricably linked with that history, here is a summary. The Lost Girls were a series of disappearances of young women across America. In each case, the ladies of differing background went missing, presumed abducted, without a trace. Each time, the only clue that remained was an inch-long square of material, cut from the clothing that they were wearing. These disappearances caused something of a fervor. Hobbyist internet detectives intent on finding some mastermind behind it all, and a flurry of true crime podcasts. There have been layered conspiracy theories, social media protests, We Are Lost Girls, frame-by-frame analyses of grainy footage of varying authenticity, and 15 minutes of fame for people of tenuous relationship to the Lost Girls. It is at this point I must break her reviewer's impartiality. For my own daughter Rose was one of the Lost Girls. 9 months ago, she went to a friend's apartment for dinner. She decided to walk back home, but she never arrived. I suspect my editor thought this assignment would be too much, but I assured her the opposite, for how often does a father in my situation get to see his daughter, even in facsimile, again? Editor's note, I did consider it too much, but Montpellier-Lin himself insisted on Mr. Postle as a reviewer, despite, or because of, his unusual subjectivity. End note. But I'm not being subjective when I say Still Life is a masterwork. Each of the girls has the flawless formal musculature that harkens back to classic Greek sculpture, and yet their skin has some sort of vitality. Every pore seems to breathe. You can glimpse the blue map of veins beneath the skin, the hint of laugh lines near the eyes. You are drawn into the illusion that they might begin walking around the exhibition. You are convinced that they may be alive and somehow taken and encased here, in stasis for us to enjoy. When I interviewed him, Montpellier Lin was immaculately dressed. A beautiful three-piece suit in midnight blue and a cherry red pocket square. His goatee was precise, and he carried a beautiful cane with a metal hawk carved into its handle, a present from the Vietnamese American sculptor Du Tay. The hawk, Montpellier Lin told me, was refashioned from the metal of landmines. Montpellier Lin grew up as the son of Selco CEO Erica Lin and influential sculptor Remy Montpellier. When he was just 18, both of his parents were killed in an unsolved crime. On returning from a late dinner with friends, there was an altercation with someone that Edward has referred to in various interviews as a vigilante and a rupturer. Both of his parents died of gunshot wounds to the heart. The assailant was never found. Soon after, Edward was enrolled in an elite boarding school in Switzerland. By all accounts, he was at the extremes of intelligence and introversion, with an inherited passion for science, especially chemistry and the arts. His arts debut came at the age of 30 with his entry of Destroyer into the Montalto Sculpture Exhibition, where it was awarded the highest honours. Like still life, Destroyer depicted the human body. However, the body was wrapped in a dark material like a spider's web. Over and over, a kind of mummification. It is assumed to be the memory of his parents' assailant, writ into tactility. The longer you watch it, it almost seems the figure is moving, straining against the material that binds it, and you realize what is depicted may not be the aggressor, but a reflection of Montpellier Lin himself. The overall effect is technically brilliant and courageously disconcerting, albeit reflective of a younger person's animus and emotional palate. Over the last 4 decades, Montpellier Lin has journeyed into abstraction, satellite 1 to 36, mechanical sculpture, torture rack, etc., and large-scale works that rivaled Christo in Fortress of Solitude. Now he has returned full circle to figure sculpting. In still life, we can see lifelong themes coming together, transmuted through experience, technique, and what Montpellier Lin admitted is a near obsessive level of detail. He says, I watched one of the 30-second clips for 8 hours straight. And in combing through the publicly available police evidence and witness reports. There were 12 lost girls in all, and they are presented in the order of their disappearance. In the first room, we are plunged into darkness. The faint whiff of detritus is in the air, and a streetlight glares down at the figure of Mackenzie Bloom as she looks in her handbag. She is caught mid-stride, her yellow dress taut around her legs, minus a square of fabric. Her expression is hidden from us, her dark hair hanging over her head. In the second room, we emerge into the illusion of sunlight, the smell of salt water, a shoreline where a video screen plays a loop of waves crashing. Standing at the railing is aspiring actress Shannon Delvell, a shimmering designer jacket hanging off her shoulders, minus 1 square of leather. One hand clamping a large white sun hat to her head, fashionably large sunglasses nestled on elegant cheekbones. The exactness of these details are breathtaking. There are traces of lipstick on the teeth of Jaya Devi. Catherine Park has a glint of orthodontics behind her teeth. And Rose, my own daughter, has a band-aid on her finger from an accident with a kitchen knife, a curious detail not present in any public reportage. The technicality of the craft and the tangled history cloaks the exhibition and the artwork with another sense of displacement. We are reminded that the lost girls are out of time, that they have been captured and placed here as exhibition. We have all the time in the world to peruse them at our pleasure. And we are forced, in the end, to wonder what it is about this work and these girls that we find so compelling that we would pay tickets to come and see. Montpellier Lin described his inspiration for the works as a recapturing. There are so many contradictions inherent in these girls that they should be so young and full of life and, like Peter Pan, will now always stay that way. I cannot help if I've done some disservice to them in rendering them this way, but in the end, to capture something so ephemeral is also to destroy it, and yet I found I couldn't not do it. On the night of the preview, Montpellier Lin accompanied me through the exhibition. In the last room was a sculpture of my daughter Rose. She was more beautiful than I remembered. Unlike the others, she is not in situ. A single spotlight shines down on her. She stands there in brown cardigan and jeans, as if caught in mid-conversation, arms by her side, a Madonna-like pose. Montpellier Lynn has captured the blush in her cheekbones and the golden shade of her hair. I cried at the sight, but I did not know if it was from the joy of seeing her or the sadness of never seeing her again, and that even though she was stuck forever there, I was not. I was still free. And Montpellier Lynn watched me, as if I was another of his exhibits, another artwork that he had created. As I took my last steps toward the exit, the lights in the gallery began to fade, and I heard a sound like an exhalation. As I turned back to look at this facsimile of Rose, I could have sworn that her eyes met mine with a coded message that I couldn't understand. I saw the band-aid on her finger, and I knew that I would return to try and decode that message again. End. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Sorry, I can't keep up with the chat as I'm reading, but I'll read later. Thank you, everyone. This last one is much lighter in tone. It was recently published in Julia Rees's wonderful Worlds of Possibility magazine, which you can buy at the link Laura will drop in the chat. I will try and save them in the sequel. That's a good idea. This last one is called The Last Items of the Forgotten Hero, or The Grandchild's First Dragon. 30 years after the War of Broken Crowns and the fall of the White Gold King, Sun Li had a new adversary to face. So, what do you like to do? He asked his granddaughter, Anther. Anther had been riding on horseback all day with her mother, his daughter, and wisps of hair were sweat stuck to her small round cheeks. Instead of answering, she scowled and dashed past him into the house. Sun Li sighed and turned to follow, wishing for a little of her speed. He battled another enemy now, invisible and near invincible, age. Inside, she was frowning at the food. Congee, youtiao, pickled vegetables arranged on the table. You can eat if you'd like, he began. I don't wanna, I wanna play. Why did my mother leave again? Well, you were both on the way to visit me, but she heard news of some bandits. So she dropped you with me and she'll be back soon. Will she cut off their heads? Anther asked eagerly. If there was an appropriate age for stories about beheadings, Sun Li couldn't remember it. She will, do what is right. And Anther glared at him. The look of a child who can smell a diplomatic answer. Maybe she'll catch them and smack their bottoms, Sun Li said lightly. She giggled at the joy of a grown-up saying a forbidden word. Then she remembered she was trying to be sulky, scowled again, and scuttled into his bedroom. And when she emerged, Anther had found a robe and was busy trying to wrap herself in it. No, not just a robe. The robe invincible. The one that he had worn when he captured the White Gold King. He had a memory of when he entered the throne room, the White Gold King on his throne looking down at him. But how did you get through the traps? And then he had seen the robe and he glared. Not even that can protect you forever. He came back as Anther's little hands lifted the edge of the robe as she ran outside. There's something wrong, she said when he caught up to her. The robe is broken. It's too heavy. He laughed. No, not broken, little one. It's crafted, magical. It doesn't let things get close. She looked at him like this was the most ridiculous thing she'd ever heard. Why? So you can't be hurt. But you can't get hugs. That's a fair point, he conceded. Let me try, she said. And then before he could catch her, she backed up 2 paces and hurled herself at the katsura tree that bloomed crimson up and over his house. The robe bounced her back from the tree unhurt, and she rolled onto the ground. She looked wide-eyed at him. Did you know it could do that? I did not, he said. Do you have any other toys? Her memory. The White Gold King gripped his blade, half astonished, half anguished, as Sun Li deflected another smell. Do you truly believe these toys can defeat me? And the younger Sunli grinned back cocky. Yes, I think they can. He led her into his storeroom. It's a little dusty, he said. She looked around, wide-eyed at the assembled things. Each one had a story from his adventures. Each one had, there's a lot of junk, she said. Would any of this be okay to play with, he asked. And then her eyes lit up. She reached over to the bottom of a stack and pulled, sending the rest clattering to the ground. He winced, then helped her to unearth it. It was the shield. He had never been quite sure if it was crafted. Its reputation was that every blow that it took split open reality like a melon, and the shield led you to the best outcome, the best world. Had it worked? It was difficult to tell. The girl pushed her sleeves up and with an intent look lifted the shield with both hands. He helped her with the other side. What do we need a shield for? She gave him another look. It's not a shield. It's not. Help me outside, I'll show you. Outside, she put it onto the grassy hill and then plonked herself down upon it. See? It's a dragon slaying sled. Now I just need a lance to slay the dragon. Her eyes narrowed again. Have you ever even slayed a dragon? A memory of the white gold king on the floor, his helmet shattered, spitting blood at him. What next after you defeat me? After, you can only become what I've become. Then you'll see. He blinked himself back to the present. I haven't slayed a dragon, I admit. Well, you obviously need a lance. Obviously. One moment, little mistress. Sun Li went back to the storeroom and took the spear of sorrow. He unscrewed the spearhead and took the staff in his hands. For a moment, muscle memory took over. The windmill through his hands, spinning end over end, and then memory faltered, and it fell clattering to the floor. He chuckled to himself and took it outside to his granddaughter. She took it dubious. Are you sure this will work? I thought we could try. It looks too old. Are you talking about me or the staff? She looked at him, unsure if he was joking. He let it go. But aren't we still missing one thing? She furrowed her brow. Where's the dragon? He asked. Oh, that's just pretend. But we could use my dragon. What? For a moment, her jaw dropped, and then suspicion crept up her face. Wait, that's not true. Yes, it's just down here. He walked to the bottom of the hill and pretended to look one way and then the other, his back towards her. Well, where is it? Suspicion gave way to a haughty pretense. It's right here. Sun Li turned and growled as loud as he could, hands outstretched into claws, robe pulled over his head. And despite herself, Antler gave a shriek that turned into a giggle and kicked off the ground and slid on the sled down the hill towards him. The staff pointed at his heart and her laughter reaching to the sky. End. Thank you. Thanks all. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for giving us those 3 stories. And in the order you did, I think was very wise.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Oh my gosh. I'm just, I'm a little overwhelmed. And the good thing about going first is that you can catch up on the chat and see all the reactions that people have been having.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the lovely comments.
Wonderful readings. Thank you so much. It's our custom here at Story Hour to take a break between the 2 readers because often we do get sort of overwhelmed by the first story, the first reader, and we need to just take a quick break to center ourselves and get ready for some new stories. And we just take a breath to do that. So now we're ready to meet John Wiswell. Like anybody doesn't know John Wiswell. John Wiswell is an ace arrow writer who lives where New York keeps all its trees. He is a Nebula Award winner and a Hugo and World Fantasy finalist for his short fiction. He has published in many venues, including Uncanny Magazine, Nature Futures, Diabolical Plots, Fireside Magazine, Podcastle, Pseudopod, and Cast of Wonders. His first novel, Someone You Can Build a Nest In, is coming out next April. and his dream is to one day be eaten by a T-Rex. Welcome, John Wiswell.
Thank you all so much for having me. It's a delight to be back.
It is our pleasure to have you back. Thank you for coming.
And it's a delight to follow Guan. If you haven't read his stories before, now you know why I like them so much. And it's a pleasure to follow. One of the stories I'll be reading tonight, let's say, has some relation to my live stream. You'll be able to guess which. I brought two stories for y'all tonight. We'll begin with a flash, and then we'll end with something a little bit longer. My debut novel that comes out in April is about our relationship to strange and impossible creatures, and so I figured I would bring a few stories tonight about the same theme. The first story I'm going to read for you is called Tucking in the Nuclear Egg. It originally was published in Nature magazine. Content warnings for, let's say, the demise of very, very large creatures and radioactive fallout. Might give you some hint as to the subject matter. The story begins. It is the largest mobile structure in the history of the planet. Its surface is both solar and kinetic absorbent, powered by sunshine and the impact of raindrops. This way, it never stops dampening the radiation. It is made up of over 135 million modular plates so that they can expand and contract with your movements. We couldn't build the blanket directly on top of you. That would have killed us. Your radiation burned out 812 different drone vehicles in our effort to pull the structure over you. These were drones with independent shielding systems used when nuclear reactors melt down. You still burned them out. When we almost had the mobile structure in place, it shook and nearly collapsed under the shift in wind currents. Apparently, you hit a new phase in your development inside your egg, and your heat output changed on a dime. It was so dramatic that the air pressure almost popped the structure like a billion-dollar balloon. Because of your radiation levels, we literally couldn't get near it to fix you, near you to fix it if the structure collapsed, and the world went without sleep that night. But it worked in the end. Now all the drone vehicles lie dormant around you. When you hatch, you'll likely pulverize them into the earth without noticing a single one of them. It was all worth it to tuck you in. We hope you're comfortable under there. We don't know how long your gestation period is. As it is, insects don't lay eggs that look like yours. Every specialist in bird and lizard reproduction is publishing papers theorizing what's going on under your shell. Your shell does not look like what we expected, more like a chicken egg the size of a baseball stadium. But most of my staff still snickers at bird specialists pontificating on what you'll hatch and become. We laugh because your parent was clearly shaped like a giant dragonfly. I have money in the office betting pool that you'll be a bug. But what do I know? I'm just an engineer who's watching over you from outside the exclusion zone. Much of the UN Security Council thinks you'll be dangerous after you hatch. You've inspired modern-day alchemists to try to turn gold into lead for protection. Gun sales are through the roof, as though they'll do anything against you. The fearful expect that you'll be like a wild animal the size of a skyscraper, with centuries worth of fallout pregnant on your breath. We tell the public that most wild animals aren't dangerous. I swear that we don't want to provoke you. Wiser heads don't think your parent meant to do all that to my aunt. The world looked at your parent and saw a weapon. It was a creature with wings larger than any plane or shuttle we've ever constructed, capable of moving them at speeds that broke the sound barrier. That it could move and not collapse under its sheer body mass challenges our notions of biology and physics. The radiation readings we got off of it were minuscule compared to what it had inside. If it didn't hold back, if it weren't naturally capable of retaining its radiation for the good of others, it would have destroyed every city it flew over. You must have the same capacity to restrain your radiation. You have what your parent had, a raw destructive power and an equal capacity for gentleness. Researchers once put a literal bull in a china shop. We have this idea that they'll destroy everything by their nature. But instead, the bull struggled to stay in the center of the aisles and to not bump into anything. See, he didn't want to break anything. All he wanted to do was escape the shop. Bulls in china shops aren't dangerous unless the owner comes in screaming and firing a gun at it. Why your parents showed up in Miami was beyond us. What it did to Miami was our fault. Now, nobody in my lifetime will be able to set foot in Florida. All that loss of life cannot happen again. I'm trying to help. We're all trying to help. We believe that all your parent wanted was to bury your egg in the earth until you were ready to hatch. The debt of our mistakes is too great to be repaid. We cost you an attentive parent. What we're doing now cannot repay that debt. It can, hopefully, show you that we don't mean you any harm, that we can live in peace together. From the readings of the modular radiation blanket, your shell isn't expanding and contracting like it used to. People who know more about biology than myself say you're calming inside your shell. We believe that before a chick is born, it responds to stimuli from outside the shell. Is radiation how you communicate with your kind? Through the layers? Through the egg? Did your parents sing you lullabies in gamma wave dialects? I cannot sing through your shell. I can only make promises. I promise I will not let the Security Council hurt you. We won't let anyone hurt you. The blanket is our best way of saying this. It's our best way of saying everything we have to say. Except that I look forward to meeting you. The end. That's my little kaiju love story. And again, that was published in Nature Futures. It may have disappeared behind their paywall. If so, I put it on my Patreon just in case. The second story originally appeared in Drabblecast and appeared a second time in Escape Pod. It is called The Tyrant Lizard and Her Plus One. And content warnings for, let's say, large sauropods getting sick to their stomachs. I think that might be the first time that content warning's been said on the show. Probably some sauropods eating some other dinosaurs. And let's say governmental neglect and abandonment. I'm just going to have a sip of water before we meet the Tyrant Lizard. All right. And this story goes, dinosaurs don't want to kill you. They just don't care that you're there. More people have been sat on by brontosauruses than have been eaten by all the theropods on this island combined. Since I joined security on the archipelago, 82% of dinosaur-related casualties were from tourists who got too close during mating season. And the 4 times I've seen a Deinonychus attack someone, they've always left them uneaten and unfinished. And why? For the same reason that bears and sharks tend to leave their victims alive, because humans taste like shit. The easiest way to survive is to not come here at all. Now, you may remember my crew from the news 3 years ago when the government sent us to claim these islands in the name of democracy or whatever. I only took this job because I was drowning in bills and going deaf. Opportunities were short. And it was an exciting 6 months before Congress cut off our funding and left us with 0 evac and 0 back pay. Now I literally can't afford to leave. If you see my senator, please tell him Miss Clover sends her finest expletives. Nowadays, my job is managing the food for my fellow orphans. The government is gone, but the food suppliers keep dumping here. We get airdrops of grain and meat-like substances that were too low grade for corporations to sell in the Americas. Thanks to regulations, they pocket write-offs by dropping their garbage on the lawns of dinosaurs. I'm on my way outside to paint when the tripwires go off, letting me know I have heavier company than usual waiting outside. I left my brushes and pigments outside and instantly fear for them. Painting is my one respite out here, even if my Tumblr has like 3 followers. In high school, Mr. Dennett said that I lacked ability and discipline, but I do this for myself, not for the memories of teachers who neg their students. And dinosaurs are less opinionated about amateur fauvism. The tripwire trembles 2 more times, waving colored flags, and then I'm sure it's the ducks outside. See, the ducks don't care that I'm here, but they love discount bulk grains. I feel their vibrations of their feet thudding on the concrete outside as I grab my trusty vuvuzela. The ducks are probably going after the cargo containers. Oh, by the way, when I say ducks, I mean hadrosaurs. They are some of the most social critters on the island. And if you drop crumbs on the ground once, they'll follow after you honking forever for more so you don't have, for more that you don't have. It's no surprise that hadrosaurs evolved into ducks. Or at least that's what I read. So I head outside with the vuvuzela that I stole from a drunken David Beckham impersonator at the only sports game I ever went to. And I come out blowing. The sound so loud that it usually spooks the ducks into fleeing the premises. I have a backup alarm, but this usually does the trick. Except there are no ducks. First, I look to the jungle, expecting them to flee south to the river. Then I check the parking lot, which is similarly vacant. And this is weird. Hadrosaurs always dumpster dive in flocks. A single tail juts out from the inside of the garage. The other ex-employees forgot to close the shutters after picking up their part of the shipment, and a dino gun. Something with a way bigger tail than my ducks. Standing halfway in the door, I give another blast from the vuvuzela, and the tail ignores me, swaying as its owner munches hips deep in a frozen fast food smorgasbord. I grab a chunk of asphalt and hurl it at the tail. That gets her attention. She turns quicker than a hadrosaur, just like evolution ordered. She reels on my door with 50 teeth and breath that gingivitis has nightmares about. She's a Zhujiang Tyrannus, the archipelago's dominant brand of tyrannosaur, and she's definitely looking at me. Her gaze makes me drop the vuvuzela. It plunks to the ground as I reach for my phone to swipe the only app that still works out here. Now, I am over 90% deaf in my good ear, and the rumble of her footsteps is fully audible to me. The earth shakes, the vibrations traveling up my entire body. I can hear her with my feet. She is as close as she needs to be to turn me into a cautionary tale. I hit the emergency app, signaling every light and siren in the compound. It's an overcast early morning, and suddenly the parking lot is painfully bright with floodlighting, and the klaxons drown out anything for 2 square miles. That spooks the Zhujiang Tyrannus, who bangs her head against the cargo container, denting it deeply, and then she sprints directly at me. This is my fault, heading an alarm that makes the critter run in whatever direction she's facing. The mix of light and noise might as well be a hurricane, and anything alive runs from that. My dumbass made an off-brand T-Rex charge directly at me. I dive indoors, the heavy steel slamming behind me, and I pray to a god that I otherwise don't admit to believing in for help. I hyperventilate, hugging my sides. Trampling is a huge human killer. How lucky was I to make it out alive? When my fingers stop shaking, I swipe the alarm off and poke my head outside. My Cretaceous visitor is gone, leaving behind a trail of crushed cars. She must have fallen tail out of here. After all that, I need a smoke and a canvas, and there haven't been cigarettes on the archipelago in years. It'll take hours of painting to calm my nerves. I look around for my paints for several moments. Did I leave them by the cars? I'm worried the bag has been crushed until I see a single smear of paint across the asphalt. The smear leads into the jungle. And that's when I realize the Queen of the Lizards stole my paints. I keep walking in circles, looking under wreckage I've already checked. Denial is easier than imagining a terrified monster accidentally snagging a bag of painting supplies on her notoriously tiny arms. You think it's hard finding cigarettes out here? Try finding a paintbrush set. Try mixing your own pigments from scratch. I've been stretching out these supplies here for years, and now. So shut up about me going into the jungle. I go because I'd rather be trampled out there than live in safety without art. And if you don't understand that, then you're what I don't miss about living in human society anymore. It takes me half an hour to track her down. It seems bizarre I've never seen her before if she lives so close. Then I notice all these newly crushed ferns. There are no bones from carrion or feces around, although it smells like feces and then some. Zhucheng Tyrannus lies on her belly, flattened out across the earth, facing northwest. She's over 35 feet long, with a coat of red and black quills across her spine. She's not a proper T-Rex, but I dare you to call her a knockoff to her face. My fiber weave paint bag is stuck on one of her toes. Her body shudders painfully, and I'm grateful to be coming from the south end until she rips one. My eyes water so badly that they almost just squirt out of my head. It's like if hell had an Axe body spray. This isn't a healthy lady. Her guts are full of chemically treated meat-like product that humans haven't even evolved to digest, let alone critters from 65 million years ago. The queen of the lizards is sprawled out in pain because she's got indigestion. And Taco Bell makes us all feel mortal an hour later. I finish dry heaving, thankful that she doesn't rouse at the sound. I creep up to her left foot. Both straps of the paint bag are wrapped around one of her claws. It doesn't look pulverized, the bag resting atop the foot rather than beneath the heel. In that one way, I'm lucky. This will be easier when she passes out. I check around her right side, trying to make out her eyes. And a dry fern cracks so loud that I hear it. Not so much as a twitch of an eyelid. The irritable monster keeps staring forward like she doesn't hear a thing. She just wants today to be over. I look at the fern under my shoe and remember blowing the vuvuzela. Did she run from the sirens or just from the light show? No way, I say to myself. And she doesn't seem to notice. Her ear canal doesn't twitch in response to a sound right next to her. This Zhucheng Tyrannus is deaf like me. I actually raise both palms slowly and slowly lower them in ASL for calm. My first urge is to teach her to sign with her tiny hands, or her one remaining tiny hand. I can't go erasing disabilities, not even those of dinosaurs. She's missing her right arm, her scales puffy out around scar tissue. She has deep grooves around her flank where other critters have hit her over the years. This old lady has led a life. A deaf hunter, a disabled queen, whose handicap spot you'd better not steal. That's when I decide to help her out. Zhu is technically my neighbor, and I have an idea. The crocodiles let plover birds into their mouths to peck scraps from their gums. The birds are so small that they're not worth eating in exchange for the pleasure of having someone else do your flossing for you. And that's why my Tumblr handle is Miss Plover. It's a quick trip back to the compound for supplies. I mix a garbage bag of dinopecta, stomach-settling drugs from back when the park worked, reptile-friendly antibiotics, and some of a chemical that fast food joints use to make a microwave patty smell fresh off the grill. Theropods hunt on smell anyway, so I figure this will work. And within 3 seconds of sticking the bag under her snout, Zhu bites into it and throws it back like a jello shot. She does it so fast, I'm stuck there in her line of sight. If she wants to eat this plover bird, she can. All I can think to do is sign calm again, more to myself than her. Zhu returns her head to the ground like she's dismissing the maid. Is it weird to be offended that a dinosaur didn't want to make eye contact? I'm not sure. I linger behind some trees until her shuddering subsides, hoping I haven't killed her. And I was barely trained for security. I'm definitely not a vet. 2 tugs later, my paint bag slips free from her foot. The inside of the bag is very blue. 2 tubes of that have burst. It's the pure blue of relief, because that means none of the other colors broke and mixed in. I've painted enough skies for a while anyway. I spend the entire hike back to the compound thinking of what to paint. That makeshift dino den would be nice. There were some gorgeous views in the jungle, and if Zhu sticks around, no smaller predators will mess with me if I go back there. Plus, I can spend months just sketching the way she crushed those cars. 500 feet out, and the garage stinks of herbivore. I come running right around the bend, and those damn ducks are banging on the cargo containers. They smelled the grain. They've swarmed around, and at least 3 separate flocks are converging on one of the cargo containers that Zhu breached. I've never seen so many ducks in one place. The pavement is slippery with their guano. If I don't get rid of them right now, we're going to lose the entire food supply. As much as I hate my neighbors, I am not going to let them starve. God damn it. The herbivores are going to kill us all. A vuvuzela is not going to fix this either. I could hit the alarm, but with this many ducks around, their own stampede will kill a lot of them, and their carcasses will turn my compound into a destination dining for carnivores. I pull out my phone, hesitating over what the hell to do, as 2 hadrosaurs manage to pop the door off the next cargo container. It swings open, and immediately a dozen more drive their heads into the food pits. I turn around to pace, and the biggest blur in the world charges past me. I hear her roaring, hear it from my hair to my toes, and Zhu rips into a hadrosaur's belly. Just as nimbly, she uppercuts a second one with her snout, sending it into a wall before going for the kill. The ducks spook, hopping over the cargo containers, going in all directions but hers. Zhu chases a third one down, catching it by the tail before drawing it into her mouth like spaghetti. I've never in my life imagined a dinosaur being treated like spaghetti. I am in absolute awe of this creature. And the absolute awe lasts roughly a minute before she starts barfing all over the parking lot. She was healthy enough to go hunt, but not to eat. If you feed a duck once, it'll follow you honking forever for more that you don't have. Zhu didn't honk, but she followed me back to the feeding grounds. Her hips shudder and she glances at me. I don't know what else to do. I sign calm. It'd be anthropomorphizing to say that she gives me a look. With that mouth, though, she always has a look. When I sign again, she lays down on the asphalt, and then she barfs up half-digested hadrosaur. She's such a pitiful sight that I want to hold her hair while she barfs this out of her system. Not that she has hair. I mean, the quills are like anorexic feathers quivering with her discomfort. And I let her rest outside, my personal attack dog. She alternates between zoning out and nibbling on her leftovers. And I sit on the crushed hood of a car and paint. She left me enough red and brown pigments to do her royal likeness justice. It reminds me of Burgess Meredith sitting on the steps of the last library on Earth. Time enough at last, I say. I spend the afternoon making Twilight Zone jokes at a deaf carnivore. My surprise is that the paintings of a barfing dinosaur get shared a ton online. Weirdos from around the world message me about prints. T-shirt sites steal my art while I'm busy making new pieces. The internet loves paintings of the big lady doing mundane things, like flossing on my clothesline or falling asleep between the solar panels in a way that makes it look like she's tanning. 2 months later, I have a Patreon. I start it to be able to afford new paints, especially blue, since most of the time I'm painting her from a low perspective and the sky kind of sneaks in there. Demand for art is draining my supplies until the first wave of pledges hits. If you're reading this, you're probably surprised that I'm surprised. I guess this is why I'm surprised to this is when I'm supposed to thank my Patreon supporters. Thank you for supporting the Miss Clover project. I hope you like the next piece. Some locals heard I tamed the beast, and I think this painting captures their terror at learning they were very wrong indeed. She's not housebroken, and neither am I. We're a couple of misanthropes. She spends her days prowling for wildlife that doesn't make her as sick as fast food, while I paint our way out from under a crap economy. In a few months, I could afford transportation off this glorified tar pit. I might even visit my senator. Although, I'm not leaving without my emotional support animal. Does anyone know an airline with a generous policy? The end.
Ah, that was delightful, John.
Thank you.
I guess getting eaten by that T-Rex wouldn't be so bad.
You just got to pick your spot, you know.
Just not alive. It's good as a burial method. I just don't want to get eaten alive by a T-Rex.
Well, the good thing is that you're not alive for long.
Yeah, no.
I haven't persuaded you.
No. Ah, what a night, Daniel.
What a great program. Thank you both for sharing such wonderful work with us.
So we don't get John and Guan back every week, unfortunately, but Daniel and I are here every week. And next week, we have another two wonderful writers. Next week, we have Catherine Quevedo and Steve Toes. Very different vibe. I do recommend checking storyhour2020.com the day of the reading to see if there are any changes. And it's also a good place to just go and look at the schedule and block out the Wednesdays you absolutely have to be free to hear certain writers. But, you know, if you miss a reading, you can always go to the Story Hour page on Facebook and watch the readings you missed, or maybe, like I think I'm about to do, watch this one a few more times, because you may have been laughing too hard to have caught everything, right? That's one of the good things about recordings. Guan Un, John Wiswell, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us tonight. This was really a spectacular evening. We hope you'll both come back and read for us again. Thank you to my co-host, Daniel Marcus, without whom literally none of us would be here. And thank you, all of you blowing up the chat in the Zoom room, all of you watching on Facebook, all of you watching on Facebook at some time in the future. Thank you for joining us and being part of Story Hour. Good night.